higher so you can see his shoes. Hey and welcome, we're back with the Live Lounge at the Las Vegas Open. I'm Steven and I'm joined with Mr. Bones. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad to be here. It's my second time, I think, being at LVO, so yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. I love the setup this year. It's been definitely interesting.
Honestly, thanks so much for joining me on the Live Lounge. We started chatting a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was under a bit of interesting circumstances, but yeah, showed up a little bit late to the party, but I'm glad that I'm here anyway, so.
Yeah, and it's really nice just to have you here because we're going to be talking about the lore of the game. Something that I think is sometimes forgotten when, you're in the heat of the competitive, scene, or you may be building your minis, but I think the lore is really what, for me, underpins the entire hobby, really.
Yeah, I do think that there is a decent balance between the two. The lore has to serve the tabletop as much as the tabletop has to sell so that the lore can happen. So I think they're both kind of working in tandem with each other, and that's why I think it's just, one of the most important aspects of the hobby.
No, I love it. So I want to know, when and why did you start your YouTube channel?
So it's not nearly as glamorous as most people who get into YouTube, because a lot of people were like, oh, I've always wanted to be creative. I've always wanted to be the guy who did this and that, and they wanted to make art. And for me, it came from a place of, I've always wanted to put my sense of humor out there, because one of my favorite things to do is entertain people. But I failed quite a lot at that growing up, doing many other things, because I was a radio DJ for a little while. I kind of fell out of with that, and a bunch of other things. I was a voice actor for a little while as well. What actually kind of spurred it on, because I had attempted it long ago, not with 40K, it was something else, and it just flopped. I was working dead-end job. It was call center work about 2 years ago. It was not the best if you've ever worked at a call center, and there was a lot of downtime for the job itself, and it was basically about an hour to 2 hour between calls. I was basically tech support for this one company, and I just remember like marathoning all these Warhammer videos, and one of my closest friends, one of the people that I've made during this hobby, is a man by the name of Pancreas No Work. I didn't know him then, and now we're best friends. We meet up whenever we can. But I remember watching one of his videos while I was working at the call center, and I was like, well, I could do that. So I just decided, instead of just like waiting for the perfect video idea, I just threw together one video while I was on the clock, and just like scripting in between calls, recorded it, posted it, and was like, you know what, I've always wanted to try and see if I can actually do it if I put like maximum effort into it, and I saw success. And it was kind of, for me, I saw it as like a means to express myself in a way that I've never been able to, and also find a job that I actually fit into, like a career path that pays my bills and also allows me to just do what I love most, which is engaging in the hobby space.
So why did you choose the lore route when you came to, and how long have you been in the hobby for? So what was it made you that choice specifically?
So that one's also kind of a funny question, because I kind of came late to the game. So I was kind of a textbook nerd growing up, but I never really got into like tabletop games. I played D&D throughout a lot of my childhood, but when it came to Warhammer, I was exposed to it, just wargaming in general. I was exposed to it when I was about 19, 20, my first year of university when I was getting into it. And I just remember seeing these miniatures. It was a diorama that was set up at a local convention, the first year that convention happened, because I live on like a small remote island in the middle of nowhere. And it was Farsight Enclaves versus Blood Angels for 7th edition. And that was where I cut my teeth. I was like, I've never seen these before. And they were like, oh, this is Warhammer. I'm like, I've kind of heard of it. So started there. that was about 10 years ago now. I didn't grow up with it. And it just kind of became my main hobby. But the reason why I chose lore is I'm bad at games. I'm absolutely terrible at most games I play. Video games, tabletop games, but I always have fun playing them. That's my main goal. And I like it because the story that you make when you're on the tabletop is the most interesting part to me. My favorite like Warhammer Games Workshop property right now that I'm playing a lot is Necromunda, because I love the aspect of naming all the characters, and even if you lose, there's just some wacky hijinks that happened. Like someone got thrown off a bridge into a wood chipper foot first, and then bugs showed up for some reason. I just love the stories that happen there, and that's why I got into the lore, because the lore is also an extension of that, and I've always enjoyed the stories for 40K, and that's what kind of got me into the branching universe of it.
And is it, when you think about the lore, is it mostly 40K lore you focus on, or is it heresy, both, or any old world you touch on, or is it really 40K you love the most?
So it's an interesting question, because depending on what year of my life in the last like 5 years you would have asked me that question, the answer would have been different. When I started 40K, I barely knew anything about 30K. I was just like gunning through as many 40K audio dramas and audio books and books in general that I could get through. But as I kind of progressed, I started the Horus Heresy, which, you know, the pipeline, you go there because it's just consistently a story you can follow. But as I kind of progressed through it, right where I'm at now, I read everything. So I read a bit of AOS lore. I'm currently going through Gotrek and Felix for the old fantasy stuff. Necromunda, obviously. Necromunda books are insane. But outside of like just Warhammer and like GW properties, I'm branching into like other things. Like a friend of mine, he introduced me into BattleTech, and I've been just absorbing that through osmosis and just kind of seeing where to go. It's a big universe in that. I got into HeroScape recently, and I've been going back and reading all the history of that game. I just like the stories that people tell with these games, so I'm just getting into everything in my free time and all that.
So how do you go about, when you're thinking of getting into the lore, like if there's anybody that's really wanting to go down the path of learning more, feeling like, because I sometimes feel even myself, I don't know enough. And it can be quite, you know, when you do talk to somebody that really knows what they're talking about, sometimes you feel like you're on the other side, you don't know, and you feel a bit stupid for not knowing these things. So what is a really good, easy way to make it more accessible, in your opinion?
So I think this might be a bit of a controversial take. I do think that, I guess not so much gatekeeping, but I think a bar for entry is kind of necessary for this kind of hobby, because especially in Warhammer, like 40K Horus Heresy, I think that it needs to be a little bit bulky. I think that there needs to be a little bit of an onboarding process for you to get into it. It might be a little embarrassing at first, but I think that's part of the learning process. I think there is no easy way to learn about 40K, as the way there is no easy way to learn about like Tolkien. Like, sure, you could start with The Hobbit, you could go into like the Lord of the Rings books, what about the Silmarillion, what about like the Forgotten Texts that got published later? Like, you could get into this massive network of things, but the important thing isn't that there's a good jumping off part that's accessible. The important part is that you start. And the easiest way to do that, I think, is just, what's your favorite thing in the setting? Okay, let's say Blood Angels. I like Blood Angels a lot. Me, they're cool. I like Blood Angels' successors more, but say Blood Angels are your favorite faction. You go to the wiki. Just be like, oh, what can I learn about the Blood Angels? And then, the successor chapter, Flesh Terrors. Well, I've never heard of them, so click on that, learn about them. And now you know significantly more about the setting than you did before. I hope that answers the question and didn't just go off the rails there. But
so a little bit like when people say, what model should you buy? Just buy the model you love, right? So is the law
cool
that
one.
Yeah, go with the rule of cool.
Yeah, just buy the interesting one.
And I think that could be like, I can imagine in the hobby there are some people that are really into the lore and they treat it like a level of history somewhat, right? What would your advice be to them to help the people around them also feel like they can get on the same page?
My advice would be not to pick favorites early. but pick ones that you have preferences in. Because learning the lore from the perspective of an individual faction, it gives you this skewed perspective of the setting. So picking a favorite and being like, this is the only one that I learned from, that can get you in like a weird spot where you don't know much about the setting from anybody else's. But pick a faction that you like, start from there, and then just spiderweb out from wherever. I always say a person's first army in 40K, as bad as it is to say this, it should be like Space Marines. Not like a specific Space Marines chapter, it's just they do everything. If you want to, like, when you start playing the game, you want to build a melee army, there's a melee army. You want to build a stealth army, there's a stealth army. You just can build in any direction that you want, and it makes it easier. That's kind of how I view, like, learning about the setting. You have to just pick a spot and just go. There's no easy way to get into it. There are books that I'd recommend people start with, but there's really no definitive spot.
No, I like that. So I want to touch a little bit about your type of content that you create. What is it that, obviously you said you really like entertaining, the comedy factor is the thing that really pulls you in that you want to share. How do you approach creating content, and who do you hope that enjoys it?
So when it comes to approaching that type of content, naturally speaking, my entire family has a very sardonic sense of humor. We're very into gallows humor. So the idea of dramatic and comedic subversion is very integral to my sense of humor. So the idea of a Grimdark universe lends itself very well to that. Now, to sum it up, the idea of like comedic subversion and dramatic reversal and all that garbage, it basically could be summed up as, oh, you can't say that, but that's what Grimdark is. It's a very dark, like, setting. Same with 40K. So there's a reason why you can laugh at the dark stuff, because it is so dark that it loops back around to being a little absurd in some places. There's a reason why there's some books that we talk about to this day because of how comedically, overbearingly dark they are.
Have you got any examples?
Hey, who here's familiar with the fifth and secret chaos god known as Matt Ward? Yeah. Also, someone who just read The Blood Tides, that old Grey Knight story, that was a fun one. You know, using the blood of Sisters of Battle to stop corn demons. Yeah, sure, yeah, of course, it makes sense.
I mean, some of the lore that you see, and also then you see the models that, you know, come out from Games Workshop, and when you truly look at those models and you see the augmentations, there's a story behind each of one of those quite disgusting things that you're looking at. How and where do you kind of find that sort of context? Do you think it kind of adds even more depth to that model when you look at it, when you know its backstory? Do you feel like this is really where you could be inspired to be a hobbyist and go further with it?
When it comes to how the lore impacts the models and how I view them, I don't know if this is the, I guess, nihilistic take or just the defeatist one, but I'm not under any illusion that Warhammer is a game first and it's a universe second. So the tabletop game is going to outlive the lore. Like if GW or any other company that makes war games had to cut off a division for their gaming company, it'd be the part of it that writes lore. So I do think that the gaming aspect and the modeling aspect is very important. But one of the things that a friend of mine, Crackduck, really pointed out that I really liked is that just the little intricacies of characters that are in the lore that are represented on model is so interesting. And a good one is Inquisitor Cortez, I believe it was, the one with the hourglass. Yeah, the fact that it's such a small detail that he has a small hourglass that he takes to his inquisitorial investigations that fundamentally it doesn't add anything to the game. It's just a little detail that he shows up with the hourglass, turns it upside down, that's your timer. He just puts it on there. They don't have to put that on the model. Same with, I just finished Watchers of the Throne, like the 2 books for that. Great books. I love Custodian lore. I think that when it's done well, it's done great. But Valerian, he has the laurels, the golden laurels on his back, that if you looked at the Custodian models, you'd be like, oh, that's standard Custodians. But if you read the books, you'd know that every single Custodian out there bullies him for being a nerd and having that kind of decoration on him. They genuinely hate it. They think it's really stupid to look at, and I love that because he doesn't want to get rid of it because it was a gift from the Primarch, Gilliman, and I think that's really cool that they have that on the model and it wasn't just like a tiny little inscription on his back because they didn't have to put it in, and I just think that's cool.
Talking about the Custodians, they're an army I play a lot. What's your favorite piece of lore about the Custodians? Tell me something really cool about them.
I think one of my favorite things about the Custodians is the fact, my favorite thing about the Custodians is that they're not really a thing in a way, because there's no standard way of making a Custodian. They are all individuals. This isn't like a Space Marine gene crafting process where you get the gene seed, you implant that into the body. There are some standardized things that goes into making a Custodian, but the process of creating a Custodian down to like the molecular level is tailor-made to make whatever person they bring in be perfect. So whatever their genetic code is more predisposed towards, that's what happens. Like, again, Watchers of the Throne series, you learn that, like, you look at Trajan Valorous. He's described as being this ugly tree knot of a man. Like, he does not look like any other Custodian because he was just built literally different. He is this big brute of a man that is like at least a head taller than most other Custodians, and he's built for war. He's barely able to talk to people because that's just not what he was. And then you look at someone like Valerian, who in lore is described as like this incredibly beautiful, very kind-looking man with a very warm smile. And from Valerian's perspective, he describes every movement that Valorous does as being as different from every Custodian as a Custodian is from a Space Marine. It's just the process of making them is different. So there's so many like different ways that a Custodian can be, but the whole point is just we're just going to max out all the stats and see how we can get there. Like, what's the process of doing that, and how can we do that as easy as possible? And I really like that Custodes is just a title, but they're not really the same thing. Each and every one of them is different, but they're all basically accomplishing the same goal.
I love that. I mean, I've learned something completely new there. Yeah. So, I mean, even just sitting listening to you, that is fantastic. So, my next question for you is, how do you maintain, the accuracy in your content when you're talking about the lore? Because it is so deep, and there's so much to learn and know, and sometimes who you ask might change. How do you do you keep accuracy in your content, and where do you blend that with comedy as well? Because that must be really difficult.
I don't. No. So, like, okay, this is another one of those things that I feel like I get in trouble a little bit with, but I don't let it bother me too much. But I find one of the biggest mistakes you can do as a lore YouTuber or someone who's getting into, like, the lore itself is just taking the setting too seriously. I'm naturally, again, a very sardonic and very, I guess, comedic person, so I don't take many things really, really seriously. So when it comes to 40K, the people who are like 100% lore accuracy is the most important thing. I get where you're coming from because a lot of people see this as like a very encyclopedic setting. This happened on this date, this happened on this date. Very history-based. They're very focused on that part of the setting. But I find that because of how inconsistent the setting is, especially with lore only really being a thing like 3rd edition and onward, and we're just changing a lot of it now, it doesn't really matter as much to be lore accurate, but understanding what actually happened and understanding the specifics of it, you can interpret it in your way. Now, there is certain things that are not up for debate, like the science aspect of it. I went to university for 4 years for science, so understanding that part of things was really fun, and like understanding that a lot of it's just malarkey. It doesn't make any sense at all, but it's fine. And to kind of merge that with comedy and kind of this lackadaisical approach is just oversimplifying it. I forgot who it was that said it, but perfection doesn't come from adding so many things to the point where it's perfect. It's taking, the thing that's left over when you take everything away. Like, what's the last thing you can take away before it just is fundamentally what it is? I'm butchering this quote, but that's kind of what it is. When you see things for what they are on like a basic level, then you can add like a comedic element to it. Like a Space Marine is just speed running a clone in the most inefficient way possible. Just that's literally all it is. Now you could argue that that's not what that is, but you're wrong. I mean, I don't make the rules, but there's just such a obsession with lore accuracy that I find it detracts from the setting in a weird way, because it's all over the place. We don't really know a lot of information because it is a very open setting. So mixing that with comedy is so easy, because just coming at it from an angle that no one really sees is just the easiest way to make it funny.
Well, I think as well, when you're bringing comedy in, you can make it so much more, not necessarily accessible is the wrong word, relatable. Because you can relate to other things that people have experienced in their own lives that they can then realize, actually, okay, I get that. And you brought that comedy in, and it can kind of soften a little bit of that, soften the areas a little bit. So even if you do start to get a bit of an interest, oh, okay, I think Custodians are pretty cool. I want to go and read a little bit more. You were just that little bit that you shared with me, a little bit of a gateway, like here's a little bit of a teaser. This is how ridiculous this actually is. Go and find out more ridiculous things about it. But then doing so, they'll find all the other interesting things as well. The really great conflict between, you know, a character's moral standpoint on a situation and everything else that they'll get from that. But you created that little seed of a little bit of comedy to give them that little bit of an inspiration to go look at this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I, like, comically enough, the reason why I was reading Watchers of the Throne was because I wanted to learn about Minotaurs, because they're in that book, and they were book series, and man, those guys are so comedically just horrible all the time.
The Space Marine chapter.
Oh, yeah, the Minotaurs. They're just the worst. I love them for it, though.
How are they the worst? I want to know.
Like, they're literally the guy that you just can't win against. And I mean that in every situation. There's a scene in the book, which one of my favorite Space Marine characters is Tor Garadon. He's been in the setting for a long time. He only got a Primaris Marine at the, I think, middle part of like 8th edition.
It's the guy with the big fist and the small hand.
Yeah, that guy. I love that guy. He has the Imperial Fist, you know. I miss the days that its strength characteristic was ×3, because that was bananas. I love that. That was stupid. But I loved him because he was in this book, and I got really happy because I didn't even know he was. But there's just these scenes where he's arguing with Asterion Moloc, and you know, chapter master of the Minotaurs, if you didn't know.
It's the guy with the big shield, right? And the spear. Looks like a Spartan.
Yeah, I love that model. He has an old Forge World model. I collected all of the old resin stuff from Forge World back in the day, and he's one of my favorite models of all time just because of how cool he looks. But in lore, he's just a... They told me I can't swear. He's a horrible person. He's just so funny. Because it's just like Tor Garadon showing up like, hey, stop killing civilians to accomplish your goals. You can literally just go around the village because the objective wasn't even in the village. And Asterion Moloc is like, you're just a coward. You're just mad. We're efficient. And he just keeps saying that. And when the High Lords are like, hey, yeah, maybe don't kill civilians as much as you're doing, Asterion Moloc is like, yeah, okay, I was just messing with him. I absolutely love every Minotaurs interaction in that book. Literally has that same energy of like, oh, could you stop like lighting orphanages on fire? And they're like, no, we need a campfire. It's cold at night. You can't just tell us not to. And then everybody in the room is like, that's not cool, man. And then one person who's actually in charge of them says, okay, enough of that. And they're like, cool. It's so funny. They're just rage baiting every single person they meet in that book, because that's the best part about them. They deploy in full chapter strength with the most modern and best gear possible. So if you do pick a fight with them, you're just going to lose. I'm pretty sure in that book they even killed some Custodians, that shouldn't happen. But yeah, there's even that one moment that's like kind of notorious. It's in the second book, Regent Shadow, where Valerian, who's not even an unnamed Custodian, he's like the hero of Lion's Gate. He and like a few like people, like just normal soldiers. Like it was like 5 soldiers, 2 Sisters of Battle, and him, like ganged up on a bloodthirster, like a greater demon of Khorne, and beat it. Yeah, I shouldn't be able to do that, but he did it anyway, and it was cool, and everybody was like, how'd you do that? But he did it. He's a really, really skilled combatant, and he's a very old custodian. There's a scene towards the end of the book where Asterion Moloc pulls up, and there's about to be all-out war between like a small squadron of like 10 custodians and like about a couple hundred Minotaurs. And Asterion Moloc rolls up, and Valerian goes, "Okay, time to kill." I don't think I can beat that guy. He just looks at Asterion and is like, "I have never seen a Space Marine like that in my entire life. This is making me uncomfortable." And I love it.
The Bloodthirster dead behind him, and he's like, "No, that shield's too big."
Yeah, and that's why I absolutely adore the Minotaurs, because it's just like they're like the exception to most Space Marine rules.
Well, they are like the Spartans, right? Yeah. You can imagine it's just Leonidas doing that epic kick where he just kicks down the emissary that's come over for, yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact that everybody's like, all the custodians are like, "Hey, is that a custodian spear?" And Asterion Moloc is like, "Mind your own business." And the fun fact, it's not actually just a non-custodian spear. It has a las cannon mounted on it. That's not fair.
They're not normal issue, are they?
Nah. Not at all. They have quite a few things that are mentioned as, oh, and the Minotaurs have this. And no one else.
So I know we're going a bit deep on the Minotaurs, but I'm loving it. So, are they a successor chapter? What was their like origin story? What was their beginnings?
God. There's a lot of answers to this question because it is very open to interpretation. So comically enough, shout out to a good friend of mine who's also in the audience, Mishmash Painting. He was one of the reasons why I was getting into Minotaurs. Well, they're my favorite chapter. Like they are just my favorite chapter. He did a video about the Minotaurs. Well, not the Minotaurs. He did a video about the Badab War. Every single chapter that was in the Badab War. He did a kit bash for every single chapter. It's a massive video. Go watch it or else. And he got me to do the Minotaurs. Now, it was originally I was supposed to do the Minotaurs and the Star Phantoms. Then my house burnt down. And, my time was limited. So I ended up sticking with the ones that I knew. So, Minotaur successor chapter, from looking at the lore, they were in the original printing of the Badab War. If you remember the original, like, Caradon Astra that looks like a front-facing cartoony shark. You have the original Salamander's colors, which was yellow and black, which I think it looks better than the green. And the Minotaurs had this, like, McDonald's ketchup and mustard crisscross pattern that I have never seen on another Marine in history. It is objectively the worst paint scheme I have ever seen. It looks cool. It's just impossible to do for an army. This isn't like Howling Griffins quartered. This is like woven patterns of green, or not green, of yellow and red. And looking at it, it's like, oh, what are the Minotaurs described as in this setting? Well, during the Badab War, during this thing, it doesn't describe what they did during the Badab War. It just says they're a chapter populated mostly by berserkers that just do berserker things, which, cool. Then you cut ahead a little bit to the brass Minotaurs that we know and despise and I love now. And they're described as being not so much berserkers, but just amoral, still can't swear, horrible men that do whatever they need to accomplish any goal that they can. If they're tasked to do anything, they're going to do it in the most Occam's razor, immoral, I'm lighting the orphanage and the hospital on fire way possible, probably because they just think it's funny. And
who tells them what to do?
High Lords of Terra. It's just objectively, they do what they want, but if the High Lords of Terra come to tell them to do something, they do that. So, to their origins, a lot of people say Iron Warriors. I don't believe so. I think that their gene seed was handpicked and created from the gene labs somewhere in the middle of nowhere by the High Lords, and there was a bargain struck with the chapter because the original Minotaurs chapter, the McDonald Marines, were wiped out because chapters go missing and die all the time, and they needed to fill these shoes. So let's sneak in a chapter that takes the name, takes the number, takes all of their lore and whatever, and they're going to work for us now. And in exchange, the High Lords supply them with the most recent and up-to-date gear. Now, gene seed-wise, probably just Imperial Fists, but mean. I don't see the Iron Warriors parts. I get it, but, like, I don't know. I see the Imperial Fist in them. Like, they're very stoic, very stern, but I do think that they were just created to fill that niche and just be the attack dogs of the High Lords, because they are. There's literally a scene in the Regent's Shadow where this, like, 4'2" lady who was the leader of the Administratum went over, looked at, like, Asterion Moloc and was like, and then Asterion Moloc, like, cranes his neck down to, like, listen to her instead of murdering her in cold blood, which is a big deal for him. And she just goes, stop. And then he goes, cool. And then they're done. They leave the planet within a week. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I think they're Iron Imperial Fist successors that were put in that slot because there's a lot of chapters that have the same paint scheme that have a very similar name. It gives them a little bit of anonymity for their war crimes so they don't get tried at whatever the 40K equivalent of war crime court is. But yeah, long-winded, but yeah.
You can't go to 40K prison.
Yeah, why not?
So, if you could change one piece of lore, what would you change?
None of it. One of my favorite quotes, it's by Alan Moore, fantastic comic book artist and just a generally good artist. I'm going to remove the expletives in what he said, that old lightning wizard. But he basically said, if you're going to write a book and you're going to write comics, you need to read books and you need to read comics, especially the bad ones, because you need to come to grips with what you're reading and go, well, I can do better than that. So I don't think retconning bad lore or changing bad lore is a good thing. I think we should keep stuff that we don't like in so that people can learn and improve from it. Because, like, as much as I rag on it, it's kind of a bit of a running joke right now that I just don't like the Grey Knights. I think that having Grey Knights lore is a good thing. I do think the models for Grey Knights are fantastic. And I think that how they play makes me want to go strip bark off a tree with my teeth, because I lost to them quite a lot in 9th edition, and I still took that personally. But I don't like their lore because I find they just go over the hill too much and just go, oh, but actually they're the best guys ever and can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and they're all super psychics, and they're also the greatest Space Marines ever. Oh, and did you know that Mark 9 power armor actually does exist still, and the Grey Knights are the only ones that actually have it? Yeah, that's crazy. But I think that stuff like that should exist. I don't think that it should go away just because I don't like it. I think that it's a good learning example as to how to improve as a writer. And I think that people in the future are going to write the Grey Knights better because we learn from the mistakes. As much as we rag on the Terminus Decree, I stand by it. That's probably maybe top 5. That's not top 3 dumbest things I've seen for the Grey Knights. People get better over time if you write bad things. And that's why I don't want to, like, change anything or, like, retcon anything.
So, is there anything you wish had a different ending? Can I ask you that? Like, from a personal perspective, is there anything you think, oh, that's not how I imagined it to go or how I wanted it to go?
The Horus Heresy. Not that I think that the Horus Heresy's ending should change in the slightest. I think how it should have been written should be changed. I am a mythology kid. I always have been. The fun fact about me, I grew up in an island that is one of the only Scottish communities outside of Scotland, and we have very strong ties to mythology and the history of, like, the Gauls and the Celtic myth and all that. And because of that, I've always grown up, like, loving mythology and not knowing everything and not understanding the birthplace of specific stories. So, like, with the Horus Heresy, I do agree on some parts that it's a good series. I think that there are bad books in it, and I love the bad books in it. Battle for the Abyss, everybody told me it was a terrible book. Probably one of my favorites because of how silly it was. But then you have like books that are just objectively good. Like I know it gets talked about a lot, but The Last Church is one of the best stories I've ever read. Not even just
The Last Church.
Yeah, The Last Church. I think it's by Graham McNeil. It's a short story. Book 10 of the Horus Heresy, if I remember correctly.
Describe that book to me.
I
I haven't read that one.
It is in I think it's book 10 or 11. I forgot which one it was because I'm bad at remembering things. But in book, whatever this is, it's an anthology book with a bunch of stories that go throughout the timeline relatively to the early era of the Horus Heresy. And the Last Church actually starts in, like, just at the end of unification of Terra. It's the Emperor of Mankind disguised as a man in a cloak going by the name Revelation, showing up to what is ostensibly the last religious establishment on Earth, and basically just going in by himself to speak with the priest. And that's the part of 40K that I love the most. Is just, it's not the action, it's not the fire and fury, it's the quiet moments where we as an audience know, even not even knowing that this is the Emperor, we could look at this and go, that's someone who knows more than he's letting on, and an old 70-year-old priest who's the last man practicing his faith, and they're just discussing theology. I really, really like that story. It is so somber. It's so, like, it's just a very silent story that ends very bittersweet, and I think that's why 40K has such good writing, because I don't think that kind of story could exist in any other setting.
Is there any time you've read lore and you felt like, you know, you have like a preconceived idea about how you want to feel maybe towards a character in the game, or you said like the Grey Knights, right? Maybe because you had a bad experience playing them and you start reading their lore and you're thinking, I don't want to like these guys. Is there any time when you've been like, actually no, kind of, and I think I had that with, there's certain factions in the game that I just personally would probably never play, because they don't appeal to me aesthetically or the play style of that army. But sometimes I've been, you know, listened to a book and I felt, I do like that character though. Have you had that sort of experience, and tell me where?
All the time. I'm a big advocate for the concept of tangential learning, which is, I kind of described it a bit earlier, but tangential learning is you're focusing on something. Again, let's use Blood Angels. And you are reading through the Blood Angels, and then say you're reading like Devastation of Baal, and you're like, wait, who are these Knights of Blood fellers? And then you go off in that direction to learn about them. So you're learning something, but you're going to learn about something else on a tangent, and you keep going on tangents until you learn about something else. So I'm someone who's very interested in pretty much everything. So for faction-wise, I always have my opinions changing, just because I'm always learning new things, because, again, the lore is inconsistent. So I originally hated the word bearers. I still hate the word bearers. Yeah, gotcha. Nah, I don't hate them. I think they're kind of fun, but they're not, I'm neutral at best. But if I was going to pick one that I didn't like initially and then started to really grow onto, weirdly enough, the Dark Angels. I just like, so the first...
Heresy or 40K?
Yes.
Both?
Yeah. So my first experience in 40K, like the lore, was me reading 3 audio dramas that I procured through legal means. They were just, one of them was The Assassination of Gabriel Seth, one of them was Heart of Decay, and the last one, God, I can't remember what it was, but this is the one that I'm talking about, where it focuses on relictors, and the relictors are cool, and they're chasing after this. I think it was Asmodai. I can't remember what it was. Rage of Asmodai. That's what it was. And I got it, and I was like, I don't know who this Asmodai fellow is. And why do people get nervous when he's mentioned? So I was watching or listening to this audio drama, and I thought it was really cool, but I found Asmodai like boring, and it kind of just colored my perception of Dark Angels for a while. It's like, oh, he's torturing people, and this is uncomfortable to listen to. So I just kept them in the back of my head as just kind of boring and torture-y people that, like, oh, if you wear the black armor, congratulations. You're going in the forever jail. So I didn't like them. And then, weirdly enough, it wasn't recently, but it was like The Son of the Lion, or no, Son of the Forest, the book, Lion, Son of the Forest by Mike Brooks, that kind of turned me around on them, like, a lot. Because that's a really, really good book. It made me want to read more of Mike Brooks' things. But I really, really enjoyed that book because it shows the Grey Knights, or not the Grey Knights, sorry.
You can't get them out of your head, can you?
Not a day goes by.
They're living rent-free up there.
Oh, no, they're going to pay. But Dark Angels in that book are 40K, but the 30K. It's weird. Have you read Son of the Forest?
I haven't, no. The only thing I know about the Dark Angels lore is the moments where they've appeared in other books in the Heresy that I've read. And is it Corswain, his sword is just called the Blade? It's like the most original name. What are you going to call it? Oh, just the Blade. That'll do.
There's a friend of mine. He's probably going to be watching this back on my island. He has Corswain, and he has killed many a people with the Blade. And all of them were mine. And I didn't like that.
It's like the weapons of the Deceiver.
Yeah, okay, naming conventions in 40K, they're not the best. Shout out to the Blood Reaver. That's 3 things. The title of Huron Blackheart, the name of the sword that Gabriel Angelos has, and it's also a weapon that another chapter master has that I can't remember.
Are they also a unit in Age of Sigmar for Khorne? Blood Reavers.
You are actually 100% correct. What is it? The home world of the Crimson Fists, it's Rin's world. The capital continent is Rinsland. The lead city is New Rin City. I mean, don't mess with perfection. But, Son of the Forest, it showed a bunch of displaced Dark Angels from 30K that went through Warp Rifts, showed up, and for them it's been like 100 years since the Horus Heresy because the Warp is the Warp. And the Lion just reappears because, I don't know, he just does. And he appears, finds an old Dark Angel who's still wearing the black armor because he's whatever, just on a planet. And he's like, oh, hey, wait a second. Because he didn't know, because for the Lion, like, what happened with the bombing of their old planet, Caliban, was like 20 minutes ago. So for him...
So when the Lion woke up, he didn't know it was 10,000 years had passed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's actually a plot point of the book where he's like, why am I so slow? I've been cursed with a hex of some sort. And then he looks in the mirror later, he's like, oh my God. He's old now. He's obviously aged like 10,000 years. And one Chaos Marine was like, you're not cursed. You're just old as hell now. Like... I thought that was a really fun plot point. But yeah, no, we don't know really what happened. He was just in some weird pocket dimension where there's forests and ghosts and maybe the Changeling. We don't know. That was weird. There was just someone who was turning into Primarchs that died. It was a cool scene. But yeah, no, he doesn't know what happened. He just woke up, and for him, it's been no time at all.
Who's your favorite Primarch?
Conrad Kurz.
Wow.
You have no idea how often I have been asked this question. I have full essays ready to defend my opinion.
Well, we won't go into that one. Yeah. But no, honestly, I mean, I've learnt loads already, and I haven't even asked most of the questions I was going to ask, but I've loved all the stories you've shared with me. So what is it that you're here at the LVO? You said this is your second time?
Yeah, I went for my first time in the January one that happened this year. It's actually one of my first trips as like a content creator. I think that was actually my first.
What do you think to the LVO?
Sorry, say that again?
What do you think about the LVO and especially the venue here, the change?
So in general, because I haven't really seen like the difference is like I saw that one once, I saw this one once. I do like the size of this one more. The venue is definitely in like a nicer place, and I really do enjoy it. The vendors, I'm picking up so many new paints that I was always like a Citadel guy because like I don't know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But now I'm going like every other company because all my friends are painters and are bullying me for not going with like Vallejo, and I'm like, oh yeah, Vallejo's pretty cool. Oh yeah. But it's been great so far. I'm going to be trying the laser tag later, which is going to be fun.
The laser tag is awesome.
Yeah, I've heard people like kind of saying as such. I'm very interested in that. So.
No, great. Well, Amy, do you have any comments from the chat? So we have a couple of questions from the chat, and then guys in the audience, if you get any question, Hobbsy, you know what to do.
Okay, so someone says, Mr. Bones, I am legally required to ask for when there is going to be a second part to the Blood Bowl episode.
When's there going to be a second episode to the Blood Bowl episode?
I know who you are. I see you in all of my comment sections, and I love you for that. Soon. Fun fact, I'm starting a Blood Bowl league when I get back. I picked up my team today. And
what team are you playing?
Sorry?
What team are you playing?
Oh, Chaos Dwarfs, obviously. Just look at me. You know, short, beard, bald. It comes together. Leagues of Votan, favorite faction, 40K, obviously.
Do you have a Votan tattoo on your arm?
Yes.
Oh, no. So,
yeah, for those who don't know.
I saw like just the bottom part of it. Now my co-host Jake on my channel also shares the same tattoo.
That is amazing. Where? If you say on the same arm, I'm going to have to go home and get another one on the other arm.
It's on his right forearm.
Okay, close enough.
Everybody thinks it's a transformer.
I was going to bring that up. I have had that comment several times. I didn't even get out of the tattoo parlor before they were like, oh man.
That's a dope transformer tattoo.
Not even. I was like, is that Ultra Magnus? I'm like, that's not even accurate. I don't even look like that. You're just making it up.
Yeah, I think Jake should have done this interview because you two would have been like just two peas in a pod.
Oh, we would have just been like, oh, the Steel Jacks? I love Rescue Heroes. They looked awesome.
But anyway, Amy, any more comments or questions?
Oh, I didn't even answer the question, actually.
When's it?
Yeah, when's the next Blood Bowl video? I'm playing Blood Bowl when I get home. The answer is actually soon. There's enough new teams and there's enough new content with Season 3 coming out that I've actually started drafting information for the new script. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Mr. Bones, which is your favorite BattleTech mech?
He doesn't have a 14-page essay for this answer.
Yeah. So there's so many options. But for those who don't know, you all know, most of you. I like picking dumb mechs because they're funny. I love the Goliath. Goliath's one of my favorites in all of its variants because it's bad, but it's funny. I love the Tarantula. That one's funny because it's bad and it looks silly. I love the Triskelion because it's bad and it looks bad, but I don't know. He's my guy. I love him. He's stupid, but I like really silly mechs. I don't think I have like a favorite outside of the silly ones. I do like the Howler or the Baboon. They're so fun. They're so simple looking, and I like a nice light mech. But yeah.
Okay. Any more, Amy?
Yeah. Somebody wants to know who the character is on your hat.
Sorry, what's that?
Who is the character on your hat?
I'm glad you asked. I don't know. There's a local, so I'm a big proponent of supporting local game stores and supporting local companies. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of my local convention, I do have like a colored history with it. They've been getting a lot better recently, and they've been bringing in a lot of interesting local brands. I can't remember the name of this brand, but they also made my sweater. They had this like clothing brand there that had like a bunch of like kind of not off-brand, but like just off designs that weren't pre-made characters. They just were things that they put on the back. This one was, the hoodie was inspired by Acura. It has the little pill on the back, but it doesn't have the slogan. But I don't know what the design on the hat is. I just really liked it, and I was like, hey, is that a character? And they're like, no. I'm like, cool. I don't need to do research. I'm just going to wear that. It looks cool. So, yeah.
Love it. Right. Should we go to some questions in the audience?
We've just got one more question in the chat, if that's okay.
Oh, man, I'm popular.
So the person's asked, what do you think happened to Constantine Valdor?
So I haven't actually read any of the new Valdor stuff. I've heard about like the King in Yellow stuff and the secret mega army that's going to obviously be implemented in 40K at some point. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it's such a big deal. It's going to, yeah. I don't know. I know that Valdor is like a very interesting character because he's frequently stated to be a Primarch in everything but name, because he's the only Custodian that could actually just one-on-one most of the Primarchs that weren't dedicated duelists. But I don't know what he's doing. I do have to read the new Valdor stuff because I think it is very interesting, but it's on the list. I got to go through the Horus Heresy still.
I think he's an absolute legend, Valdor. I think he's super cool.
I wonder why. It's a Custodies joke. Hi, he plays Custodies. He said that, yeah. Okay.
Any questions from the audience?
Hello, Mr. Bones. I'm a huge fan. I'm also a big fan of the Guard, so I just want to know, what's your favorite Guard unit or character? Or maybe both?
Does it have to be in the game?
No.
Okay, easy. Hurt Bronzy from the Horus Heresy. Amazing character, swears just about as much as me. He is one of the hetmen, which is basically like a company commander for the Geno 5-2 Chiliad, one of the old 100 Guard regiments, and he's just a horrible, not horrible, he's just a little bit of a silly guy. He's one of the only guys that was directly interviewed by a Space Marine, and he's like, well, if I'm going to die, I might as well make fun of him while I'm doing it.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm asking for the one guy in your comment section. Why do you hate the Tempestus Scions?
You knew this was coming, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't. I just haven't really read much about them. I'm going to be doing so soon because I am doing research into like odd Guard units in the future because I do want to cover like the Lucifer Blacks. I want to cover Tempestus Scions, Casterkins. There's like a Vestroyan one that I really like. They're called the Void Worms. They were mentioned once in, I think it was No Surrender, a Only War campaign book, and I really thought they were cool because they were Vestroyan Firstborn that wore kind of power armor, but it was like self-contained power armor that was very light. It's kind of like the Sabbat style pattern armor that the Sisters of Battle have, but the big Cossack hats that go up like the Vestroyans, made out of solid plate steel, and I thought that was really funny. But yeah, at some point, I don't know.
Hey, how's it going? So my question is, do you think Asterion Moloc is one person or multiple? Because I like the idea that he's Alpha Legion.
Sorry, you're gonna have to hold the mic a little bit closer. I only heard, do you think Asterion Moloc?
Do you think he's multiple people or just one? Because I like the idea that he's Alpha Legion.
I'm a big proponent of him being just one guy because I feel like it makes his accomplishments more unnerving. I like the idea that he is someone who is just like a big rock in your lawn. It's just really hard to get rid of him, and you really got to be careful not to run your lawnmower over him, or you are going to take more damage than the rock in that situation. But yeah, no, I think he's one guy. I know the data slug thing is kind of something that people throw around, but I think you can't reach that level of reputation and skill with just data slugs.
Who's your favorite Warhammer author and why?
Easy. Arendensky Bowden. I know that a lot of people typecast him as the guy that... Yeah, I love Aaron Dembski Bowden. His books were kind of the first ones that actually made me realize that the reason why 40K lore, not the gameplay, because there is a separation. The reason why 40K lore is so successful is because not just that the setting is interesting. Like, I will state that Guy Haley is one of the best world builders in like 40K, which is why they like put him on like a lot of the main series books, like Dark Imperium, and like a lot of the more modern stuff. He writes the main books for those because he is just amazing at crafting. But ADB is one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite authors, outside of 40K, because he's really, really good at the small scale of things, and that's what I find most interesting about 40K. I find the characters are the interesting part. Now, ADB isn't the best at like world building in some aspects, but I do find that when he's writing for like someone small, like just a single guardsman, he's able to make these little punchy lines that give you the idea of like human struggle. These characters are not just like characters that are like, I am Space Marinius guy, I am super cool. No, you see this person that like has this history and they struggle, and you can see the struggle written on their character, and I find that is one of the most endearing parts of him. So I vouch that if anybody wants to get into like the more interesting but a little lore heavy parts of 40K, Aaron Dembski Bound just does some of the best lines and best work.
So you mentioned earlier you liked a lot of the mythology and mystery to a lot of events in 40K, or it being a big reason for it. What is one of those big mysterious events or like pieces of mythology that you really do like about it?
So like a big mysterious event? Oh, easy, the Howling. The Howling is one of those things that like, I'm of two minds about it. I want the Howling to be discussed, but I also kind of want it to just be one of those things that like, I feel like someone just like spilled their coffee on the keyboard and they're just like, oh yeah, no, there's once this cyborg ultra psyker alien named the Caco Dominus. He's responsible for the death of over 200 billion psychers. And I'm like, well, how much? That's a lot more than you think that is. And it's like, oh, it took almost the entire chapter of the Black Templars and a bunch of other chapters to just stop him. He's canon. And the funniest part is you can buy him right now. You can buy his skull. He's in the upgrade kit for the Black Templars. It's just a three-eyed skull, and that's all that's left of him. And so he's canon, but we've never explored it. He's just mentioned in like a single paragraph, and I love that. It's one of my favorite mysteries. I don't think we should ever really explore it, but I think it'd be funny if we did.
Well, Mr. Bones, thank you so much, mate, for joining me today.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Where can people find you?
Mr. Bones 40K, the YouTube channel. I also appear on other people's channels. I'll promote it on there because it's kind of sporadic. But yeah, that's kind of the only place you can really find me. I don't really do much else.
Well, Mr. Bones, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
It's no problem.
And we'll be back in half an hour, and I'm going to be talking to Dan Osborne about how to paint an army but without getting burnt out. So that's coming up in half an hour's time. Thank you so much, and see you later.
Thank you for having me.